And girls, Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Casamigos Tequila Margarita. Lots of foreign words. And it is, of course, the featured drink in today's episode. We're going to start with our shaker with ice. To that, we're going to add 1.5 ounces Casamigos Blanco Tequila. 1.5 ounces. Next, 1/4 ounce fresh lime juice from the plastic lime. 1/4 ounce. And that's about it. A little more. Why not? Next, 1/4 ounce fresh orange juice. And this is fresh from a carton. Another 1/4 ounce. Next, agave nectar, boys and girls. 1/3 ounce. 1/3 ounce. Close enough. And then another 1/3 ounce orange liqueur. I'm using Cointreau. 1/3 ounce. It's about 1/4, right? Whatever. Then we shake vigorously for 10 count. And then we're going to pour into our rocks glass, which I've already rimmed with salt. And there you have it, boys and girls. The Casamigos Tequila Margarita. It's not bad. I don't think I've ever had Blanco or white tequila even. Not bad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See ya.
This week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Return to Horror High, is a movie within a movie that has the title of a sequel. Yes, it's that meta. Marsha Brady even shows up. But the real kicker is George Clooney, who makes his theatrical debut, gets second billing, all for about 10 minutes of screen time. But it's 10 minutes of facts of life mulleted Clooney. It's peak 80s. Sit back and enjoy. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Greg,
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen.
and welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing good, Greg. How are you?
I'm good, Karen. Thank you for asking.
It's what we do.
All right, Karen, I believe this film was your choice, was it? Was it not? Or anything else we need to cover before we go into this cinematic gem you have chosen?
No, I think there's nothing stopping us now. Get right into it.
All right. What film have you chosen for us, Karen? Tell us. Tell us all.
I have chosen the 1987 movie Return to Horror High.
Any reason you chose this film, Karen, or just been on your list?
Well, it has not been on my list.
Ah,
This comes out, if you're listening, in time on May 8th. And the world was blessed with George Clooney on May 6th. So we're celebrating George Clooney. It was a toss up between Grizzly 2 Revenge and Return to Horror High. I might have chosen the wrong one.
well, I don't know. I do not know.
I have
Karen.
not seen the other.
But congratulations, George Clooney, for leveling up. Even he's way older than both of us, Karen.
No. But it's interesting. If you grew up in the Cincinnati area, which we both did, we knew his dad was a newscaster. So
Yes.
you would think he'd have a little bit of a leg up. His aunt
And
is,
his aunt Rosemary.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you look, I only looked briefly because when I was trying to find a movie, what old campy horror movie he might have been in, and there were a couple, and it's obviously he paid his dues. He started out doing.
But I noticed. Maybe I made a note of it, but he got second billing in the credits. He is the second name you see when they're going through the cast.
Well, I think he had done Facts of Life by the time this came out.
I think so too.
But still, he started in TV, probably, I don't know, maybe commercials. I don't know. I haven't followed George Clooney that closely, but
I wonder if he gets a percentage of this film every time someone watches it.
one can only hope.
Probably it's not a bad payday, Karen, for what little time he's in it. He probably did his part in an afternoon. And he got second billing, but whatever. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry. Radio gold. Wasting it. So we're celebrating George Clooney's birthday. That's why you chose this film
Yes.
from 1987. Do we have a cocktail celebrating George Clooney as well, Karen?
We do. We have a simple but sensational cocktail.
Go on. Do tell.
Well, as you probably know, George Clooney and a few friends, I think, owns Casamigos Tequila. So we are having
Is that like Friends House or House Friends or something?
Yeah, I guess. My house is friends of I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
We're having a Casamigos Tequila Margarita. Although I did not use that tequila, so I had other tequila.
Well, so did I, but I still ran out and bought it.
Did you really? I told you last week not to buy
Well, I didn't have the only tequila I have like the gold tequila.
Oh, you don't have the Blanco.
No, I don't have the Blanco. This is the first Blanco tequila I've ever had that I know of, Karen.
We've had it before.
I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't though. You may have had tequila drinks, but I've always used my Jose Cuervo.
Oh, okay. I thought, well, whatever. I thought other ones called for Blanco. I like this better.
Yeah, the gold, but
I like tequila.
Once again, I'm jumping ahead.
So to make it, you're going to need 1.5 ounces of Blanco tequila, 3/4 ounce lime juice, 1/4 ounce orange juice, 1/3 ounce agave nectar, and 1/3 ounce of orange liqueur.
Did you use agave nectar, Karen?
Yeah, I have that. We talked about it last time.
I had to go out and buy that too, but go on.
We used it as syrup on pancakes. So
yes, of course you do.
But it's still just sugar. Combine all the ingredients in a cocktail shaker filled with ice, shake vigorously for a 10 count, and pour into a rocks glass that has been rimmed with salt and sugar. So if you to make that salted rim, quarter cup of coarse salt, quarter cup of sugar. It's an
I
interesting.
did not add sugar to the rim, but I did use simple syrup as my,
Oh, that was smart.
yeah. So I got salt and simple syrup on my rim.
You don't have to put salt on it, but I think it adds to
It
it. I
does
always
add
like it.
if you like
Yeah.
it, yeah. Mine has
I was
evaporated
gonna say
already, almost.
you normally I would say you don't like tequila, but watching you drink that, you're about 3/4 of the way through it. So I'm guessing,
Well, I've been sipping it on for quite a while, Karen.
yeah, I was late.
All right, should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own Casa Amigos Tequila Margarita? Is that how you say it?
Yes, and yes, we should.
All right, hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
All right, Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us of this film?
I do.
Go on, tell us all the story about the 1980s.
In the early 1980s, a series of gruesome murders occurred at Crippen High School. The killer was never apprehended. A few years later, a film crew uses the now abandoned Crippen High as the set for a film about the murders. But an uninvited guest star, the killer the film is based on, makes a cameo appearance on the set. As the murderous madman terrorizes the cast and crew, leading man Stephen and leading lady Callie set out to stop him.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match. Do you remember the 80s, Karen? Did this film take you back?
Some of the 80s. Yeah, there's some bad hairdos and bad fashion, that's for sure.
I think it's good hairdos and good fashion, but whatever. All right. Tell us everything you really enjoyed about this film, Karen, or anything you were pleasantly surprised by. What would you tell our listeners to? How would you recommend this film to them? Give us all its pluses.
The story's interesting, the concept of it. I can see that as a horror film that could have been done. So, the basis for the film is interesting. There's some random interesting shots. Every once in a while, there's an overhead shot or a really low looking up shot that almost make you feel like they were trying, which was interesting because most of the film doesn't make it look like that. There's some shadow work that I thought was pretty good here and there. And not just people walking along walls, although there was that, but there's shadows that come across people at different times to let you know someone's there. There is sequel potential. I don't think that happened, but there is sequel potential there in the way that I like it, where it's obvious and the squeaky theme comes around and then there could be a sequel. I like that. That might be all I got. What do you got?
I agree. The is kind of good. I knew what they were trying to do, and I kind of liked it. I'm not sure they did a good job of it, though. It's trying to be meta, right?
Yes.
And I was digging it for a while, but then I was kind of like, okay, I'm getting lost now.
It tries to be too many things, I think.
I did like some of the shots with the shadows. There were some nice shots, just in general. It doesn't have to be shadow work or any of that shit. It's just some nice shots in general.
There's some overheads. There's some good editing once in a while. I can think of one in particular where blood, and then he throws blood. There's nice editing in there. It just somehow, if it could have been maintained through the whole thing, it would have been much
And I
better.
laughed a few times, which is this is a horror comedy. So that's what it's aiming for.
It is, and it hits some notes. A lot of it's stupid, but some of it hits.
Stupid is funny. Sometimes.
Sometimes. I think there are recognizable people in it.
There are.
To me, a lot more than I anticipated. I mean, Marsha Brady's in it.
Yeah. And Tommy from Alice.
Okay. Like I was just trying to figure, yes. So
And
I don't
Alex
know if
Rocco, who's using the freaking Godfather, for God's sake. The guy who plays the producer.
somehow it just doesn't gel.
And
Not that
George Clooney. Holy cow.
I will say I thought he kind of stood out a little bit in his relaxedness. I don't know what the right word is, in front of the camera.
He was comfortable
Yeah, you could kind of see the comfort
behind the
level
camera.
in front of the camera. Yeah. I wouldn't
The
say
camera
his,
likes him, Karen. Is that what you
yes,
would
I
say?
wouldn't say his acting was so much better than
He
anyone
didn't have much
else's.
to do,
I
but he
didn't
was
think,
fine.
I didn't think that. I think they're all fine.
They are. All the actors are fine. And partly because it's a horror comedy and they're kind of over the
Playing
top
it that way.
on purpose.
Yes. It works very little
It's a
of the
lot
time.
better than Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Okay?
See, I don't really think so.
Oh, I think it's much better.
He's
Yeah.
in a sequel from the Tomatoes, and I didn't choose that one either.
I was into this for the first hour, probably.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Maybe not quite an hour, but that's the first time I checked the time. When they started switching, I was like, okay, is this the movie or is this what happened? I kind of
so
lost
then we can
track.
move on to what we didn't like so
Yes.
much. And what we're alluding to is I think George Clooney is knocked off in by the 13th minute or something.
Yep.
So even though he is second build, he's not in it very long.
Nope.
So that's kind of what
very
we're
much,
joking about.
for that matter.
Yeah. It's just so, I did say good editing, but then there's really bad editing in it. It's very choppy. You can't tell what's real. It's told in flashbacks, I think. So you can't
it's non-linear, right?
Yes. You can't tell what is the movie and what isn't. And I think that's part of their gig. And I kind of got that for a while. But then it just got, it almost like they gave up on that part of it and just, I don't know.
Yeah, I did kind of.
And then there's
because once about the time I was starting to wonder, okay, is this the movie or the what happened? They never went back. You know what I mean? It was all the movie, but
until there's a big twist at the end, which I did not see coming. So I guess I got to give them that.
Yeah.
I completely, but I was kind of checked out.
But what kind of
police work was terrible?
Yeah. What kind of public servants are these that they can't tell if a person is dead?
And they kept saying they were in pieces.
Yeah. Well,
and
Marsha Brady did.
The Marsha Brady character's awful. She's supposed to be horny and all she does is eat. And it's just
rubs blood on her chest. Although we didn't see near enough of her chest, but
it was kind of like, I know we bring up Airplane a lot because we both obviously liked that movie, and it is a little bit like that, but it just seemed like it's almost a parody of horror films. Like, oh, we need some skeletons, we need some blood, and that's kind of what the producer is saying throughout the movie. We need, naked women. He's kind of going through the things we need. And there's all this conflict with the director who's trying to make a good artsy film serious or something. Film, yeah. And so we see that. So we know
almost a documentary about the killings that happened.
Why there's ridiculousness in it. It's explained to us, but it's still ridiculousness.
But it's kind of funny.
I guess maybe either I didn't really like the humor or wasn't in the mood for it. Because usually I like ones like this. Like, they're usually my jam. I think they're funny. And
I know, Karen.
I know. So I'm surprised that
I feel like I like this one more than you.
Yes. So I'm going to go there. Is there anything else? Is there anything you didn't like?
I didn't like the sound. That's the very first thing I wrote down. The sound is weird. It sounds compressed or something. Like, I don't know. It's not realistic. It's weird. On Amazon Prime, anyway, where I was watching it.
The music, there's some okay music in it. There's some bad music, and then there's some okay music, but it's over the top music.
It's mostly bad, Karen.
But they're trying to be current. It's current to the time music.
Lots of cheesy 80s music. I have in my notes. Yeah.
Which at the time was probably okay. Now it's cheesy 80s music, but then it was probably very current.
Beginning music was pretty good, though. I do recall almost writing down, oh, this is good. It's good, like thriller slasher music in the beginning, probably during the credits.
I
But
think
then
it was,
it just
yeah.
went downhill from there.
Some scenes go on too long. So there's like, I don't know what else to call. I don't know if it was maybe you would, I didn't take shop. I don't know if you did or not, but there's
I I
basically,
I took screen printing. I did not take shop.
was there a large, basically kitty litter box in the room that nobody talked about? Like,
Yeah, you don't know about the sandbox? That's what I called it.
like, what is, it's just in the middle of a classroom, a sandbox, and no one thinks, oh,
And
this is
apparently it's
weird.
quicksand. It's a quicksand box.
And they can go down in it, but the sand doesn't go down in it. It's like
No, no, it's special.
it's
It's
weird.
magic. It's magical sandbox.
That's pretty large that no one seems to.
But see, you get more into that. I just go with the flow. I don't really give a shit. I just like, yeah, take me, lead me where you will. Yeah, just whatever. I buy in. Like if I'm watching a movie like this or any horror movie, really, I'm pretty much suspending my,
But that's what
belief
they
in
they pay
anything.
us to critique the movie, Greg. That's the whole point.
Who pays us, Karen? Who are you getting checks that I don't know about?
You don't get paid? Huh, interesting.
All right, Karen. We need to talk after this. All right. Anything else that really grinded your gears?
It was just way too choppy for me. It went back and forth and back and forth. And like you said, it's not that the concept, like the one we watched about the making of the
Mm-hmm.
Dracula movie,
Mm-hmm. Nosferatu.
much cooler. Like they kind of somehow mixed it together. This just, and I get it, it's comedy, and I kind of liked what they were doing until I couldn't tell anymore what they were doing. And
Yeah, it was
I
a
know
little
that's,
too much. Those look confusing.
and
That
I
would be
know they were
my
kind of going for that, but the
right.
ending just made it was completely unbelievable because they're holding parts and then the police don't
Unless
know.
unless Marsha Brady was in on it or something. But
Maybe, yeah, if she was paid off or something, I don't know. So that the ending was disappointing, and I don't know how the ending actually could have occurred that way anyway.
no. Yeah,
So
the ending was it was weird.
disappointing. I get that they wanted to have a sequel potential, which of course you would with these types of horror movies. That's how they're made and why they have franchises and all that. But it just wasn't. They just threw everything in there, but the kitchen sink, the mask pulling, the skeletons, the room underneath the school, like everything was just
Mm-hmm.
there. And
All your tropes.
so I don't know, which was the point. Again, like the producer wanted that stuff, but I don't know. Didn't work for me.
All right. Before we give our cocktail rating, would you like to hear a review from the time, Karen?
Sure.
From way, way back in 1987.
Is it in the New York Times?
Close, Karen. The LA Times.
Oh, okay.
But first, I have to tell you, this has a 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb, 17% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think those Google users think?
See, these are the type of movies that Google users are like, oh, yeah, you got to see. This is a cult classic. I'm going to go with 84%.
75. So close. But again, you went over. All right. LA Times, April 6th,
I'm just going to
1980.
say I agree with Rotten Tomatoes. Proceed.
April 6th, 1987. There's something about, and I'm going to read the whole thing. There's something about the central gimmick of Return to Horror High that seems irresistibly clever. What would happen if a low-budget schlocko horror production full of mangling, splatterings, and hardcore mayhem found itself stalked by the same boogeyman it was portraying? In the story, we see a seedy, fourth-rate movie team headed by a double-talking, unscrupulous producer, a farcically ambitious director, and an enigmatically obsessed writer. Lots of big words in the LA Times. Create a string of unsolved murders in the very high school Crippen High, where they were committed 5 years ago. This sleazy endeavor is suddenly plagued by what first seems mass walkouts by cast and crew caused by the horrendous working conditions, but is actually a new series of Crippen-style murders. It's a rich premise, and Horror High has a lot more ideas and humor than you'd expect. The framework lets the filmmakers make numerous inside satirical gags and also juice up the tension by switching along 4 different planes of action. At any given moment, we could be watching recollections of the past murders, the real life backstage, the phony scenes in the movie being shot, or occasionally the nightmares of the cast and crew. There's even a 5th element. The story is being recounted in flashback by the distraught screenwriter. But Return to Horror High doesn't reach all its tongue and fang in cheek goals. It always seems better written than directed. Doubly ironic since director Bill Froelich is one of the 4 screenwriters. Froelich's directing lacks confidence and rhythm. He pushes many of the jokes too hard, and his actors, punched up to frenzied caricatures, are all over the map. Some are feeble or forced, others are good in whole or part. Slimebag producer Rocco and Vince Edwards as a biology teacher, a sleazy biology teacher, as I'm going to call him, both have their moments, and Al Fan makes a roaring, full-blooded cartoon of the sinister Amos. The movie is clever, but it's not clever enough. True life or nightmare, recollection, or schlock, each level of reality, in quotes, has the same camera angles, the same fake gore, and the same Saturday Night Live in the Charnel House style acting. And the triple twist climax is so wildly unlikely and depends on such cretinous inattention from some of the cast that you could only accept it in a drunken stupor. Well, there it is, Karen. That's why I like it. Still, the film is laudably offbeat. When was the last time you saw a heroine interrupt a slasher movie rape scene to denounce her employers for their execrable tastes? I don't even know what that word is. Execrable? Where? That's it, Karen.
So now that I'm thinking about it, is George Clooney the only person who actually got killed?
No. Well, maybe he was. No, I don't know. I'm pretty sure the teacher got killed.
But that was a flashback.
No, that was the movie because he was an actor. Because Kaylee / Susan / Sarah was in the scene, right? And she was acting in that scene as Susan. So that's how I knew when as soon as I started recognizing her, the actress who plays those 3 parts, Lori Lethin, I knew, oh, okay, this is part of the movie because they said that she's playing 3 roles.
Right. They did say it's a when one actor's not there, another one just throws on a wig, and then we see her doing that. But overall, I was just thinking, they say that the killer was discovered, but I'm thinking, who was actually killed besides?
Well, we never saw George Clooney again after he was killed. All the other ones, I don't know if we saw the teacher again though either.
But still, they did all of that.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention, but we saw whatever. We saw everyone else.
There's not a lot of murder going on, actually.
Not actually, no. I think the principal was, well.
No.
Was he? Was he? We don't know. You think he'd be dead. You think he'd be dead twice.
Exactly, but I don't think
he'd be double dead.
That's the sequel.
All right.
Anyway.
What kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen?
I'd give it a 5, but it sounds like
my gosh.
you'd want to go with 4.
Wow. I was going to go with a 3.
Oh, no, I can't do that. I thought it was, I think it depends on your humor and how much of it.
I give it an A for effort.
No, because it devolved into, no. I think Attack of the Killer Tomatoes was better than this, but that was more my humor.
No, it isn't.
So this is probably
not even close, Karen.
Well, I'm giving it a 4.
This is way better.
whatever you want on the thing, but
Right.
in my head, it's a
I
4.
I said 3, you said 5. We'll go with 4. We'll split the difference. It's a 3.5, boys and girls, but we'll give it a 4.
I disagree. It did lead you down some roads. I will say, I think they were trying to make you think that Steve might have been more involved in it because he does, as a cop, he does say it could have been me. You can't leave anybody out. And
the note you throw away may get you killed. Let's have sex.
yes,
That's how
exactly.
that scene went.
Yeah.
Okay. 4 cocktails. Are you ready to get into it? Scene by scene, Karen.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Let's get into it.
Okay. I like your conviction and your excitement, Karen. Return to Horror High from 1987. You remember 1987, Karen?
I do.
Although I believe it takes place in 1982.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did.
You paid the $3.99.
Yes.
I did as well. Film starts, and the first thing we have is words to read, Karen. Already. In 1982, a series of brutal murders rocked Crippen High School. Apparently, there's some British killer named Crippen, the Crippen murders or something. I don't know. The killer was never apprehended. 3 months ago, Cosmic Pictures went to the town of Crippen to film the story of what actually happened, making the movie in the very halls of the now abandoned school. They were not alone.
See, I mean, that's a good premise.
Was. And we have credits. And right here I wrote, George Clooney gets second billing, way ahead of Marsha Brady and Tommy from Alice, I wrote.
True. And they were in it a lot more than he was.
So film opens after credits and we see police investigating murders.
Yeah, looks like a crime scene.
Marsha Brady's a cop, and she explains to the chief that the bodies are in pieces and some of them are missing.
Well, she says, well, there's 6 or 7, maybe 8. He gets short with her and he's like, can't you count? And she says they're in pieces.
And right here I wrote, sound is weird. From the very beginning, I'm like, this doesn't sound right.
There's bloody bags all over the place. And think about it.
They're sheets. Their bodies covered with bloody sheets.
There's sheets. But the police are out there for a long time.
They had to collect all those body parts and I guess drag them out into the schoolyard. Once again, they didn't notice that
and they're outside. They don't go in
attached
till the end. So they're laying there that entire time.
But they had to go in to collect them.
True. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, that's my main issue with this film is the ineptitude of the police.
Which never would have happened.
No, never. I mean, hell, I don't think the coroner ever shows up. I think they mentioned him once, but I think they say, well, we better get the coroner, but that's all that's ever mentioned. Anyway, so then the police begin questioning the sole survivor. Apparently he's the writer and they were making a movie, and I wrote, he ain't much help.
He's supposed to be in shock.
So then we cut to a camera crew filming. So this, I guess, is a time jump. This is our first time jump, right?
Yeah, I think he's explaining what happened.
I guess. A time jump and a camera crew filming, and a cop interrupts the set. The actor says, oh, I thought he was Oliver, who is George Clooney, who is also playing a cop. Whatever.
But the cop that he just walks into the scene while they're filming and they get all upset.
The next thing I have is the director and the writer seem to be having issues. I feel like the writer is doing lots of rewrites.
The director's a dick to the writer. Every time he writes something, he says, no, that's not the movie I'm making, crumples it up.
Film I'm making.
And throws it at him.
So then we meet the producer. He takes a call on his briefcase phone, Karen.
Yes, very nice.
Apparently it's a reporter or something. And I wrote, he seems a little sleazy to me.
Yeah,
he's played by Alex Rocco, who was in the freaking Godfather, for God's sake. And he won an Emmy for the famous Teddy Z.
Right before that, they tell George Clooney his agent's on the phone. So he goes to talk to his agent, which is it's minor, but it plays into the story a little bit.
Yeah, and he like this turns to the director and says, hey, And like, okay, break. Whatever George Clooney.
Yes. Whatever George wants, he gets. And the producer is
Which I didn't
sleazy.
really understand because he wasn't anybody at this point, but whatever. So then the next thing I have is Two Bare Breasts, the actress, the Two Bare Breasts, and we learn apparently they aren't hers, they are props that the FX guy made for her. And the director grabs one of them and throws it over his shoulder and it explodes. He makes a
Yes.
joke about exploding breasts in the whole
Yes.
conversation there.
The
But
director
whatever.
wants subtle, the producer wants explicit.
Exploitive.
Yeah.
Then George Clooney comes back on screen and we learn that he has an offer to do a series and it starts filming tomorrow. He got to go.
He's out.
But the director says, hey, you committed to the film for 4 weeks. And he's like, oh, okay, sorry. Got to go. And he says, we'll sue. And he was like, okay, good luck.
Well, he says, no, you won't. That costs money. So that's our first indication that this is very low budget. He does say, for those of you who watched 80s shows, that the show that he's going to be on is a ripoff of Miami Vice and Moonlighting.
Yes. I watched both of those on occasion. More Miami Vice than Moonlighting, but whatever.
I think I watched more Moonlighting, but I don't remember much of either, but I know I watched them.
Then we have a little comic relief between the producer and the runner, the gopher. He keeps calling for him and he keeps
his
popping up
assistant.
and
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So then Oliver leaves the set, George Clooney, and he sees something down the hallway and goes to investigate, I wrote. But then
he's trying to get it. Yeah,
he can't find his way out of the school.
He can't figure out how to
Apparently.
get out. And there's Froggy's fog everywhere.
And then he finds blood like dripping from above a doorway. And he walks in and then he's grabbed. And then we see his bloody face against the window of a door. And then blood comes over under the door. And I'm assuming he gone. He gone.
Yeah.
So then we see the producer trying to convince the real cop that stumbled upon the set to take the place of Oliver in the movie. You're a natural. So Stephen the cop meets the leading lady next, Callie. And I wrote, he's a bit stiff.
And she's a complainer. That's how we get them.
No, she's...
No, she confronts the producer and she wants her contract signed and he's not going to do it. And
I think she's the most level-headed of the whole bunch.
and we hear a squeaking bucket.
And someone comes and mops up George Clooney's blood.
Yeah, and there's a tooth. Yeah, and a tooth.
They must have spent a lot for that tooth because it
gets a
prominently
close up.
displayed.
Yes. Gets its own close up.
Then I wrote time jump. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is one of those time jump movies. So I figure, okay, time jump. So we see the writer, who is the sole survivor, talking to the cops again. And then one of the sheets moves. One of the bodies under the sheets moves. And they check it for a pulse, but the arm is severed. So Marcia, she begins coming on to the chief.
I don't know.
She like unbuttons her shirt and starts rubbing blood all over her chest.
Yeah, I just didn't get her character. It was just weird. I just said Marcia's horny.
Marcia. Then we got another time jump, I wrote anyway. But sometimes these time jumps aren't really time jumps when I say them. I'm just assuming, right?
No, sometimes they're flashbacks and sometimes they're dreams. Sometimes they're in real time. It's hard to tell. They usually kind of tell us after the scene, but after a while that didn't happen anymore.
This wasn't really a time jump because we're back at the film. Well, it is a time jump because we're back at the film, but they're not filming. It's backstage while they're filming, right?
Behind the scenes,
yeah.
kind of.
And Amos, the janitor, comes up with this squeaky bucket and he talks to Steven. Apparently he knows Steven because Steven went to school there, Steven the cop. And Amos lets us know that he's going to do porn now with his newfound fame because
he's well endowed.
Apparently.
They talk about it.
They talk. They all talk. Hello, boys and girls. Karen and I hope you are enjoying the podcast. You know what I think can make your listening experience even better? A delicious themed adult beverage. You can find all our drink recipes on our website, scaryspirits.com, in the recipe den. Tune in every Wednesday and join us for a drink. Now, back to the show. So then Callie goes to see the principal of the school, who I guess is the principal of the school, because she wants to know what the person she is playing was like.
Yeah, and the principal's catching flies out of the air.
Yeah.
Or either there's a lot of flies and he's catching them one after the other, or he doesn't really catch it and it keeps going.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
And the principal goes on to describe how he found the various body parts in the room, like a nose here, a tongue here, or whatever. And principal has Callie open a closet door. She opens it and there's a rotting head in there. But turns out it was a prop, and the special effects guy comes in and he's mad because just ruined his prop. It was all timed. When you open the door, all this shit happens. I don't know.
Yeah, when she opened the door, it triggers
And
his
now he
prop.
has to reset.
He's got the rat tail of all rat tails, too. Did you see that?
I didn't notice.
Oh, God. Yeah. The principal's an odd duck, even here. He's being very strange.
He's a weirdo. So next I have time jump question mark, but I wasn't sure.
I said a flashback, but
Because we have a
the principal
cheerleader.
is remembering the kids.
Right. And we have a cheerleader and we see one bare cheerleader breasts, Karen. And then we meet Richard, who apparently is the quarterback. And apparently he's dating the cheerleader.
She's too easy for him. It's not a challenge. He just snaps his fingers and everything gets done. So, of course, they have to find new blood.
So they see a hot girl walking along there. And apparently that's Sarah. And at this point, I didn't know that Sarah was Callie. So I didn't know what this was. So apparently this is part of the film. So then Richard goes to try to hook
but
up
it's
with
also
Sarah.
a remembering thing. Like this is supposedly what happened.
What happened? I guess. Yeah. I don't know. So Richard wants to hook up with Sarah. Apparently he's like God's gift.
Well, he bets another teenage boy that because they talk about her virginity, of course, and then Richard says, yes, nobody's climbed that mountain.
Well, that's what he thinks. He don't know.
They talk about it. And then he says, I'll bet you. What does he bet? Money?
I think know.
That he can
Karen,
make it happen.
Boys will be boys.
Anyway, he approaches her, but she's a tough girl. She's not impressed with him.
No, not at all. But he follows her into the women's locker room and we see two more bare breasts.
Because I was like, of course, he's got to go in the locker room.
But all the other girls are, seem, ooh, there's Richard. And he threatens to take one of the girls out into the hallway naked. And we see two more bare breasts. And then Sarah reluctantly agrees to go out with him.
Yeah, to protect the other
And
girl.
as he leaves, we hear girls saying, ooh, bring him back. So next we see Richard and Sarah in a convertible. And of course, Richard wants to be romantic, Karen, out in the woods in the convertible.
She wants to go home.
Yeah, she wants to go home. It's getting late. And then I wrote pretty much Richard assaults her.
Because he paid $17 for her dinner, she owes him.
That's right. And then we see a hand come around and cop a feel, and we learn it's the producer, and they're filming the movie right now. So this is them filming the movie.
Yeah, and then she gives a big speech about
Callie, who plays Sarah, and Susan isn't very happy. But we learned that the character she was playing was raped, but she doesn't think it should be shown. You don't have to show it. You can just say, Then we have the producer interacting with a couple of the actors, and one of them is grabbed and pulled into a room.
Well, yeah, because they're talking about he didn't get his check, and the producer's like, what? You didn't get your check? I'll talk to my secretary. I can't believe it. I'll get you the money, which is another indication that there's no money in this film.
And the producer talks to the writer, wants him to make the script better for Callie, right? Wants to say, well, have her do some girl talk. Talk about, dreams and getting pregnant and having kids or whatever.
I just wrote, they talk about making the actress not quit the picture, and they talk inappropriately, but he does give her a redeeming arc, make her talk to a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And then make them do it naked is what he says.
Oh, I missed that part.
And then go ahead in the background.
There, we see an axe and a head decapitated through a classroom.
Silhouette,
Yeah, but it's like smoky glass or whatever it is.
frosted glass.
Frosted
Yeah.
glass, yes.
So maybe that person was killed. I
Maybe
don't
not.
know.
I don't know. I doubt it because we see an axe come down and a head go flying up.
And someone does collect a head later. So before you go anywhere, they go back to the writer and he's writing something. And I noticed he's a lefty. He
Is he?
writes, yeah. So
Hmm.
I just want approximately what percentage of people are left-handed, would you say?
16.
Not bad, 10%.
That's not right. No way.
Approximately 10%.
Approximately. So
Ambidextrous.
it could be 16.
If you're ambidextrous, refers to having equal ability in both hands. Those who learn it still tend to favor their originally dominant hand, with about 1% prevalence of actually being able to use both equally. It was initially thought that a single gene controlled handedness. However, more recent studies suggest that multiple genes, perhaps up to 40, contribute to this trait. Each of these genes likely has a weak effect by itself, but together they play a significant role in establishing hand preference.
And Karen, 420 was just a couple weeks ago, which gives a whole other meaning to the word lefties.
Okay. And passing the duchy.
Yeah, lefties and patching the duchy.
Which we used to sing as kids with no idea what that was.
Oh, I did.
Well, maybe we were older when it came out.
We
I can't
were older,
remember.
yes. Yeah. We're not that young, Karen.
It's just funny the songs that you sing and then you listen to the lyrics later and you're like, oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of Alice Cooper songs when I was younger, Karen. Oh, I love the dead, sick things. But I knew exactly what they meant at the time.
Well, yeah, I'm talking
Moving
about.
on. Yeah, it's more like Kiss. Like Kiss songs I listened to was back in like 1975, 1976. Or Judas Priest songs, even that I
Yeah,
listened to when I
screaming
was
out
younger.
love gun in front of your mom, singing all the lyrics. You just, and later you're like, oh,
But
Christine 16,
yeah,
busting
that kind of
that
stuff.
baby out.
Yeah. And, like I said, Judas Priest. And I read the lyrics now. I'm like, oh my God, how could I not have known that
How did I miss that?
Big Rob was gay?
Yeah,
But whatever. I still love him.
as we should.
So then we see Kaylee and Steven discussing the high school. He tells her that he went there and he takes her to his locker. Apparently he remembered his fucking combination, Karen.
It still has the same one, which is what nightmares are made of.
I know.
When you can't remember your combination.
Oh my God, I had a couple last night, Karen. Just like that kind of shit. But
I
whatever.
used to have that one all the time when I was in high school. And then when I was in graduate school, I would have one where I just stopped working, didn't have a project. And then I was kind of like, I really need to finish this degree. Like, I need to get this finished. Maybe I should talk to my advisor. And by the time I actually do that, I've been gone so long. I have no lab bench space, nothing. Everything's just gone. I'm like, tra la la, maybe I should finish this. But yeah, that combination one's a big one in high. You cannot remember.
And I've had dreams not long ago that I needed credits to get my diploma, my high school diploma, which I got like decades ago, Karen. But I'm still dreaming about it. What the fuck?
Trying to open the locker, not knowing your schedule, which that's one big one in college where you're like, oh, wait, I had
knowing my schedule, but not knowing my fucking classroom is.
Yeah, never went.
In our huge high school. Which we could only walk one way.
Right, around a square. So eventually you were going to find it.
Crazy.
Stress dreams.
Yes, be under a lot of stress.
Still want to do a wicked ramblings on that if we could find someone to help us.
But anyway, in Steven's locker, there is a heart with an arrow through it, and it says Steven and Kathy. But then Steven says he did not put an arrow there. It's fresh.
Yes, through his name.
Through his name. And Kelly hypothesizes that maybe whoever was the original killer is back. So then we're in the prop room or something, or the prop being pulled by a string. I don't know. A guy's chasing it, and then he's pulled down into the sandbox.
The big sandbox. And it looks like a big screw that's magnetically being pulled, and it goes into the sandbox. And a random dude.
Tommy from Alice. That's the guy who plays the quarterback.
It's not.
That's
the second guy.
Goes,
the one that goes in the kitty litter box.
I think his name is Choo Choo.
In the litter box, just goes head first down in it.
He does.
And the litter stays the same height. Nothing. It was weird.
But then
Tommy from Alice
comes in.
And he's the quarterback.
Well, he's playing the quarterback.
Yes. Well, that's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah.
So this is behind the scenes of the movie again. And he's kind of looking in the sand and blood comes up out of the sandbox or something.
And he backs up.
And then he's caught in a snare and pulled up.
Some sort of Bugs Bunny snare thing where he gets, and he's hanging by his ankles.
And then he's pulled up and he grabs something comes down and he grabs it.
Like a pull switch, and he turns it on.
And it's a
fan. He pulls it, and it's a fan
It's a fan
blade
coming towards him.
Yes.
And then we have blood splatter and the producer and the director arguing, because right after that, that's when the producer is throwing blood on one of the actors.
And it's a huge amount.
It is. So that
was a nice
edit. Nice edit. Yeah. That's a nice shot. That's a nice cut. Yeah, like you said. And I wrote, the director wants to make a serious film, but the producer wants blood and gore. They argue.
Again, so that's a constant through the whole thing.
Then we see Stephen and Callie walking the halls, and they talk about Kathy, and Stephen says he never saw her after prom. She went to her grandparents for summer vacation and never returned.
One other thing, too, I'm not sure we mentioned that the producer canceled all the hotel rooms, and everyone has to stay in the high school.
That's kind of important.
Yeah, it does show up in a little bit, and I don't know when they said it, but he's like, there's plenty of room here. We can all stay here.
Once again, there's no money.
Right.
Then we cut to Amos and his squeaky bucket. I guess Stephen and Callie come upon him, and he says the director asked him to mop up and whatever.
Yeah, and there's a ton of blood, so he's mopping up blood.
Next thing I have is apparently they're having problems keeping staff on the movie because people are disappearing, and they're assuming they're leaving, I guess. Then I have time jump. I'm not sure it's a time jump. Writer and the detective walking over the body. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's time jump.
Okay, there is something before that. For some reason, they go and they're smoking in the boys' room. Like they're in the bathroom. I guess that's when Amos is cleaning up all the blood or something. And there's a bunch of people in the bathroom, and then people just keep coming out of the bathroom stall like a clown car.
Yeah,
that made me laugh. Yeah, I laughed at that. See, I thought that was funny because they kept coming. And at first I'm like, that's too many people to have been in a stall. And then they keep coming and coming and coming out. And so I thought, oh, that's okay. Like a clown car. That's funny.
No, it's not stupid, Karen. The writer and the chief walking over the bodies. Ryder explains that they expect people to leave.
Well, the cop's like, did you not hear anybody screaming? Didn't you notice anybody missing? And the writer's like, yeah, we heard them. We thought they were rehearsing their parts, and people leave. You know, it's a low budget film. They get pissed, they leave. It's not unexpected. So he explains it all away.
Then they talk about the amount of blood in the film. And Marsha Brady arrives with blood all over her. Oh, this is when she's rubbing her breast with blood. She explains how she tripped and fell and slid all the way down the hallway in the blood.
Yes, because it was slippery.
And she found a severed hand in the biology lab.
She's very excited by it.
Then I wrote time jump ? But I don't know if it is. I don't think it is. But then we're in the biology, I guess, classroom, and the teacher's teaching biology. And then Callie arrives as Susan, a new student. So that's when I'm thinking, oh, this is the film, because that's Callie, and she's saying she is Susan. And Susan
there's a kid
and
sleeping
Donnie,
in class.
Donnie. His name is Donnie. Donnie Porter. Porter? Susan and Donnie make a connection.
Well, wait, you got to back up a little bit. So he's sleeping in there, and the teacher, who is an asshole, is going to wake him up by opening a jar that has formaldehyde in it. So I don't know if we've talked about formaldehyde before. I kind of think we did, but
I don't know, but
it's
go
a
on.
highly toxic systemic poison that is absorbed well by inhalation. The vapor is a severe respiratory tract and skin irritant and may cause dizziness or suffocation. Contact with formaldehyde solution can cause burns to the eyes and skin. At low levels, breathing in formaldehyde can cause eye, nose, and throat irritation. At higher levels, formaldehyde exposure can cause skin rashes, shortness of breath, wheezing, changes in lung function. So it's not good that he's doing that to wake him up, because obviously he's inhaled it if he's waking
Yeah,
up
but
from it.
he's not he didn't put it under his nose or didn't,
Doesn't take much, really.
he put it on his desk to the side of him. Everyone else was smelling it just as much as Donnie was,
Okay.
but whatever.
I don't think that's true, but let's move on.
Well, Donnie got more of it, I guess, but whatever.
But the teacher's making fun of him, and all the kids are laughing at him. And then Susan comes in, and then it looks like the beginning of a porno movie, because she comes in and she's all, I'm new to class. And the teacher's looking at her chest. And
But she's a straight A student, Ken.
well, yeah. And then
So,
there's a side note of him saying she's going to need tutoring.
yeah. So then this teacher stops Susan as she is leaving after class. He offers to tutor her because, she has to catch up. She's new. And then another student enters, another female student enters, and apparently she used to get A's, but now she's getting C's, and she wants to know why. And the teacher says something, well, I think you could look at yourself in the mirror and realize why.
She looks a little like Madonna with the lace
Yeah.
gloves and stuff.
And lace top.
Yeah. So he's moved on from her. So it's gross. But anyway,
Yeah. But that's the film, I think. But
he's
they
sleeping
may
with
be,
his students.
yeah. So they may be trying.
Yeah. We don't know if they're
We don't know if
embellishing or
that's
not.
true or not. That's
We don't
what they're
know.
filming. I don't know.
Right.
So
Trying
then
to
we
make
see,
it interesting, or is it true, or is it just embellishment? We don't know. We have no idea.
so then we see Officer Steven. He comes in and questions the teacher. And
About who
then,
yeah, because I've heard that you might know who's done this.
and then Steven stops and openly questions the writing. So this is one of those minutes where it's like it's meta, they're filming a film and all that shit, right? And he knows this isn't the way it happened because he went there when all this went down, right?
Right.
So then we cut to biology class again. And again, I don't know if this is movie or it's the same teacher. So whatever. But
And it's the kid who has fallen asleep.
yeah, and they're
So
going to dissect a frog, Karen.
do you know why you dissect frogs? Why they're chosen for dissection? Besides the fact that they're small. I know we did fetal pigs,
It's
but
small and easy to get.
they have similar body systems like the digestive and circulatory system to other vertebrates like humans, making them a nice specimen for comparative anatomy. I looked them up. I think you can get them. Oh, shoot. I didn't write it down. There is a frog now that they make, but it's over $100. That's not a real frog. It's a fake
What's
one,
the fun
but
in that?
well, they recycle it, they remelt it, and you can cut it open and
Oh,
see
gotcha.
everything instead of using live frogs. Well, previously live frogs, because
Yeah.
there
Well,
was
Well,
a
our
fungus.
pigs were fetal pigs, so they were technically never born.
Depends on the state you were like. Well, they were not born, correct?
They were not born. They were fetal pigs. They were born.
But there have been different diseases,
Which is why
like
we probably had to share them in teams. There weren't as
fungus
many
and
of
things
them.
like that are wiping out the frog populations. So, but you can still get them. I think they're like $5 a piece only or something at this point, or maybe more. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
All right. So apparently Donnie, he doesn't have the stomach for dissecting the frog.
No, the teacher wants him to slice it open and rip the heart out. I don't
Yes.
remember having to do that.
No, that was a little bit extreme. But Susan tries to stand up for him. So again, we're in the film, but the teacher forces Donnie to cut into the frog with the scalpel. End of scene. Then it's later in the day, I guess, because everything's dark, and we hear squeaking outside the biology classroom, ? I wrote. And the teacher thinks it's Susan. More squeaking. and the teacher is hit over the head. And we go through a panorama of jars of animals in formaldehyde. And I thought we were going to see his head in one of the
So
jars.
did I. I was so disappointed
We're
that we didn't
panning
see
from
that.
jar to
But see,
jar
now
to
this
jar.
is no longer, this isn't the movie anymore, right? And
I don't
Susan's,
know.
that's what I'm saying. And Susan's coming to, he thinks she's coming for tutoring.
Yes, which is part of the movie.
Right. So this is where it started to get confusing and
Yeah,
they weren't
me
really
too.
helping us.
So I think this is part of the movie. Teacher is strapped to a table. The killer nails him to the table.
Like a crucifixion almost.
Then we have cheesy's 80s music I wrote. And the killer inserts a scalpel into the teacher. And we're hearing his words from earlier when he's telling Donnie to.
The words where he's taunting the kid who couldn't dissect the frog.
And then the killer pulls the teacher's heart out and puts it in his mouth, in the teacher's mouth. He got, but apparently not really, because this is the movie. I don't know. Cut back to Callie and Steven.
Yeah, that could have been a flashback because she says, is that really how he died? And he said, I think so.
And Callie doesn't feel right about people disappearing. Callie wants to find the person who is causing all this, and they begin brainstorming, have their little notebooks, notepads, Karen. And then we cut to the producer on his briefcase phone talking to the reporter in the bathroom stall. And he talks about people disappearing from his film, and he's trying to drum up publicity. Callie eavesdrops on him, and she makes notes in her notebook.
And right, because they say, let's come up with a list of names. So they kind of do a montage of them listening to people and writing their names down. It's like they could just write everyone's name down.
Then Steven, we see Steven, and he going to the principal's office and sees a picture of his girlfriend, Kathy.
Johnson, I think is what he knows her as.
And he learns that she is actually the principal's daughter, and she used a pseudonym of Johnson so that, all of
No
her
one would know.
classmates would know she was the principal's daughter.
Because what could be worse than that in high school than being the principal's daughter? I totally get it. Change your name.
Principal tells him that she is away at grad school. Steven takes notes. Next, we have a scene about an actor playing a dead guy asking about his motivation.
Yes.
Which was funny. Then we cut to the food truck backstage at filming. The writer reveals to the cinematographer that a long time ago he went to the high school. Callie overhears and takes notes. Then we see Callie and Steven trying to come up with a suspect. They have like one of those
murder boards,
cork boards or something where they're pinning everything up on it and connecting with string or whatever. And Steven says it could be anyone. Steven says it could be him. Never rule out anyone. The note you throw away could kill you. I like that. Then Steven and Callie share a moment and their tongues, I wrote.
and
They
then we have
kissy face.
a montage of
Cheesy's 80s music as they have relations.
yes. Was this where they were welding outside? I didn't really get what that was for. Did you get
They're
that?
building props. I don't know.
Weird.
I guess. So then they hear squeaking. I guess they wake up and hear squeaking. Steven goes out to investigate. Callie gets up to follow. Steven runs in and tells her that they know too much. They are onto them. And Steven goes to grab his gun, but it's missing. Callie looks out the window of the door and sees the same mask of the killer we saw earlier in the biology lab.
Yeah, it's kind of a beluga whale mask or something. I don't know. It's all kind of melted. It's a cross between a scream mask and a what's the one William Shatner
Japanese
one?
mask.
I don't know.
It was
it's just
weird.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Low budget. It's low budget.
I mean, but this is way before.
Right, before
Scream.
those films. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But same idea, white mask with a black
Hood.
kind of covering on the back.
So then a hand bursts through the small window and grabs Steven and breaks his neck, apparently. He gone. Killer busts through the door. Callie breaks the window with a chair and jumps out. And she jumps into her Pontiac. I thought it was a Chrysler K car at first, but the steering wheel had a Pontiac symbol on it. So as she's trying to start it. And then Amos comes from the back seat and yells, "Cut." And then Amos severs Callie's head.
Yeah, so we see all that. We see it's the movie because they yell cut when Amos is about to slice her neck.
But he slices it anyway.
He does, and he enjoys doing it.
And then Callie wakes up and it was all a dream. So we got dreams. We got just like there's like four, just like the review said. We got real time, the movie, the backstage at the movie, and a dream. So then Callie goes into the hall and finds blood. Steven says it looks like someone was dragging a body. Steven grabs his gun and they check it out.
Yeah, they walk right through it.
And right here I wrote time check, 27 minutes left. So I got through an hour before I wanted to look for the time. Then we see Steven and Callie investigating the dark school, heartbeat in the background. They follow the blood trail to a bathroom. It leads to a bloody stall. Steven believes the body was hacked up and flushed.
You know how small the pieces would have to be, but
Callie finds a comedy and tragedy necklace. She says it was Freddie's, whoever the fuck Freddie was.
yeah, I didn't know who Freddie was. I thought, oh, I didn't learn one of the names. I didn't know who that was.
There was no character named Freddie, so I don't know who Freddie was.
But presumably an actor.
Presumably. Then we see the chief looking at Freddie's body. I wrote.
That he was the first assistant director. That's what they say.
Yeah. And Marsha Brady's eating a chili dog.
She's always eating or something.
No, this is the first time she's eating.
No, she had a Coke, like an In-N-Out burger.
Oh,
Coke.
she did have a Coke earlier and she was slurping,
slurping it.
And then the chief wants to do a room by room search, but the writer cautions him not to because that's
what will make him mad. They tried that.
All hell broke loose. So then we cut to Steve and Callie searching the school room by room. And I'm like, is this a flashback? I don't know.
I'm like, why didn't they just leave?
But I
don't know if they're in the movie or in the real time. I didn't know. So
see, I think this is like backstage of the movie because they're in the effects shop, right? And they see the producer and the director severed heads on a crate or something. Callie wants to call the police. Steven says no, they have to find the killer. Even though he is the fucking police, but anyway, they have to find the killer. He is still there. The blood is fresh.
They didn't look that good, those guys.
No, he's a cop. He doesn't know what real blood is. He's fooled by Caro syrup or whatever. So they follow another trail of blood to the sandbox and they find the tunnel under the sand. Magic sand that doesn't collapse inside the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Callie and Steven descend into the tunnel.
There's a little bit of comedy there about flashlights and how everybody wants to go in without a flashlight. So she gets a flashlight, but then she breaks it immediately.
Yeah, they fall down the stairs. They lose the flashlight and Steven's gun. They both slide across the floor into the darkness. So then they begin searching the walls for a secret door. Steven finds one because apparently it's his training.
Well, she says, how do you know that was there? And I said, oh, I think we're supposed to think that he's somehow involved because he knows the secret door is there. And he turns to her and says, training.
Maybe. They enter a room apparently filled with corpses. Amos startles them, and Amos blames the principal. He says he just happened upon this room or whatever. And
just now.
And Steve says there's one chair left, and Amos says, it's for you, and then they fight. Amos attacks Steven.
And then we see a couple of skeletons and corpses around. And
Steven punches Amos in the family jewels. Then Steven grabs at Amos's face and he removes a mask and revealing that it is really the Principal Castleman.
There never was an Amos.
Principal grabs Callie. He holds a knife to her throat, or actually a straight razor, what it is, to her throat and tells Steven to take his seat. And the principal ties up Callie.
Yeah, and the principal, this whole time, he's acting, I don't know what he was trying to do.
He's a nut.
Yeah, but it was, I don't know. I was put off by it.
Principal tells Steven that Steven got his daughter Kathy pregnant and she had to get an abortion.
She gave herself an abortion and that's why she died.
See, I didn't really understand. That's what I kind of thought, like she died during the, I didn't.
But she didn't get one. She gave herself
All
one. He
right. So
says that.
that was lost on me. But that's kind of what I was thinking it was where it was going, but I didn't really get that. And the principal reveals that one of the corpses is Kathy.
Yes. And he's inappropriate with it.
Kisses it.
But he's got his tongue out and stuff. It's gross. And showing him her garter and kissing her. And
Principal says they're going to have a wedding. That's why she's wearing a garter. She always wanted a garter with purple flowers for her wedding. Stephen gets up and says he's leaving. It's Monday Night
because
Football.
he's going to have her marry Stephen. And he's like, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. Because principal's not holding him anymore. He's just sitting in the chair. He's got a knife to Callie's throat, but whatever. He can get up and walk out probably. And that's what he does. He says, I got to go. Steelers are playing the Raiders. I got to go. I'm done here.
It's Monday Night Football or something, he says.
That's what he says. Principal threatens to kill Callie. Stephen doesn't care.
But as he's casually walking towards a javelin that just happens to be in the basement.
Yeah, apparently Stephen was in track, Karen.
He was a javelin thrower.
Grabs it and throws it, impaling the principal.
Against the concrete wall, which it would not have gone into, but for some reason he can't move.
Well, I have class dismissed. Did you say something like that?
Yes.
All right. Sounds like something Arnold Schwarzenegger would say. Class dismissed. So then Callie says she thought Stephen was going to leave her. Stephen says no, he hates football. Then we cut to the chief, back to the chief, and he grabs his M16. He tells the writer that he's to take them to the tunnel in the classroom where the principal was impaled. Whatever.
So the writer goes through this whole thing instead of just taking the cops to the tunnel and the room. He's a storyteller, that one.
Shows them the tunnel, and then he exits the school, and then he yells, all clear, and all the film crew get up from under their sheets. And they're like, woohoo, we did it. Yeah, awesome, dude. That was great. Whatever.
They start loading up into all the vans and cars.
The vans and drive away. So I wrote, apparently the principal was the real killer, ? So they rewrote the script ? I didn't know what was going on here. Then we have special effects guy puts on rubber gloves, yellow rubber gloves that we've seen the killer wear the whole time. And he drives away. But before he drives away, he says, next time for real.
Yeah. So I don't know if he was killing people or not.
Or he wanted to. I don't know. So then we're in the tunnel. The principal pulls the javelin from his chest. And then he goes at the police with the javelin. They shoot him. He keeps coming. And then they just eventually fill him full of bullets, Karen. He gone. So then the police exit the school to find all the bodies are gone. I wrote, Marcia is confused.
Yes.
The chief hypothesizes that someone took the bodies. The killer must still be out there.
Some sicko.
So then we cut to the screenwriter, Arthur, sitting at his typewriter with a photo of the principal on his little desk there. His little tiny desk.
Yeah, it's like a kid's desk. Like we used to sit at. I don't know if they still do. They do.
And he talks to the photo and he says, Dad, they always want sequels. They will be back and I will be waiting. And then he begins typing.
And he says, this time, no rewrites. He's going to do it the way he wants.
Begins typing, and we see the typewriter write horror high. And then we hear squeaking. Cut back, and we see it's return to horror high. And then blood drips on the paper. Shadow enters, and the writer turns and says, Dad! Credits. The end. Did you watch the credits all the way to the end, Karen?
I did not. Was there something at the end?
The very last thing in the credits is, or is it? ? So you had to watch all the credits to get that, or is it? But there was no sequel. Still want to keep you guessing, I guess.
Well, the title itself sounds like a sequel, but it's not. Yeah. I thought it was a sequel to something else, but it is not.
All right, Karen. What'd you think of this Casamigos Tequila Margarita?
It's tasty.
It's better than I thought it would be. Mine is evaporated.
Did you find agave syrup or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Agave syrup in the raw, Karen, is what I got.
Nice.
In the raw. Yeah, I'm not mad. It's good. I like the salt too.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, the margarita.
Anything we learned today, Karen?
We learned about formaldehyde, frogs, and left-handedness,
Lefties.
sinisters.
Some 420 references in there too. Yeah. If you were a lefty back in the day, you stabbed you with their forks. Use your right hand. Spawn of Satan. All right. Are we ready to move on to the next film, Karen?
Yes, we are.
Is it my film, Karen?
Yeah, see if you can top this one, Greg. What do you got?
Oh, I'm going to try, Karen. Let's see. The film I have is from 1971, Karen.
Is it a Hammer film?
It is, Karen.
Oh,
ding, 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 ding,
excellent.
ding. It is Blood from the Mummy's Tomb,
Ooh,
starring the lovely Valerie Leone in a dual role.
have
Much
you
like
seen it?
Callie in this one. No, I haven't seen it.
Do you have a drink to go with it?
Ooh, I do, Karen.
What might that be?
It's called the Mummy White Russian.
Oh, that's just a white Russian with mummy in front of it.
No, you have to wrap your glass in gauze.
Okay.
You're going to need vanilla vodka, coffee liqueur, and heavy cream. I like white Russians.
I know you do.
And now that I have my Di Serono Velvet, I might use some of that too in it. The heavy cream. It's creamy.
It is.
Yeah, so that's the key thing. You wrap your highball glass with gauze and fill it with ice before you make the right Russian. It's a mommy white Russian, Karen. It counts. It counts. The vessel counts.
Okay.
So I look forward to that next week, as I'm sure you do as well.
Of course.
Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, I want to thank our listener. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
This week, Karen, I'm going to thank the great people of the state of North Carolina.
Ooh, that's it? Just North Carolina?
And the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.